Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first round of the 2023 GP4 Offline Championship. We are here at the popular Road America for the United States Grand Prix, the first ever time the top class has arrived here at the popular Road America circuit, and the first time since 2010 that the season will not start in Australia. I am JW97, and I'm joined today by 2021 World Champion Franco Gamba.
Hello, everyone. And a new season is beginning, and of course, I think that everyone else is excited to see what will happen this week.
Indeed, and it should be quite a very exciting season indeed. If pre-season testing is anything to go by, then we could be up for quite a close season indeed, especially with how close the lap times were, of course. It is the first ever time we've been here to Road America for the top class, and before we obviously start, of course, whilst we wait for the drivers to get underway, of course, you would have seen a couple of newses that came out on Twitter in regards to streaming this season. First of all, in terms of the practice session, you may have noticed it's actually a 30-minute practice session instead of a 40-minute practice session. This is due to the fact that for the first 9 races of the season, we will be having the practice sessions be 30 minutes long instead of 40 minutes long. However, from Silverstone to the last race of the season, so specifically when the silly season starts, that will be 40 minutes long because, of course, because it's a silly season, gives us more to talk about. But for the first 9 races of the season, so from here to the Austrian Grand Prix, it will be 30 minutes long. So, bear that in mind. And the other thing as well is that you may have noticed the title of the stream looks a little bit different. That is because for practice and qualifying will actually take place all on one stream from this season onwards rather than 2 separate streams. So after this practice session is finished, we will have a little bit of a break for Yuri to sort everything out for qualifying, of course, and also for me to sort out the tweet from practice, of course, and also maybe to get a little bit of a drink for myself and Franco as well. And then we'll get on with the qualifying as soon as Yuri gets that sorted out. So a little bit different, but at least for Yuri, it kind of saves him from going onto the channel and having to create a new stream, really. So kind of saves a little bit of a job, really, having this one stream. But yeah, hopefully things should run a little bit quicker with practice now. But anyway, they are the changes going into this. Another change as well I might have mentioned in terms of one of the cars. There is a slight little tweak to the Aston Martin livery you might have just briefly seen whilst we were looking at the garages. The logo for the Cognizant is now changed from black to white now. So it's actually a white logo on the side pod. So it might look a little bit different with the colours it's got, but apart from that, the basic livery is just basically the same. It's just a little tweak, really, from what we saw in pre-season testing. But we come here at Road America, and personally, Franco, as I said last season, I'm personally looking forward to this because this track, very popular indeed, and has produced some good racing for both DTM and World Champ cars. You would expect the same with the top class here.
Yeah, I think that we will see quite an exciting race for tomorrow. And personally, for everyone who actually watched OC since a lot of season, it will feel strange to start the season outside Melbourne. But I do think that this track will be way better in terms of overtaking show and action in general than Melbourne. So I'm looking forward to that, and I expect a pretty good beginning of the season, and I can't wait for it.
Indeed. In terms of what you mentioned there with dark cars there, High, and that's just the garages. That's not the cars in general that's doing that. So don't worry about that whatsoever. But anyway, that's that really. So Road America is going to be exciting. Well, I even mentioned as well in the first 2 races of the season, Franco, as well, that maybe we could expect the first 2 races to be overtake fest because Road America has proven to be quite an overtake fest in the past in the other series, but also because we're returning to Interlagos next week for round 2, and that's been proven in the past to be quite an overtake fest as well. We could have a lot more overtaking than what the F1 season has so far produced in real life.
Yeah, I expect to see even the double of the overtakes that we have seen in real life. So let's say the advice to the people is that tune in for these 2 races, of course, and of course for the rest of the season, but especially for these 2 races because it will be quite exciting to see a lot of show that we haven't seen in the real F1. So OC will make us, of course, very entertained, and yeah, especially with the pack probably going to be closer than last season. So I'm really looking forward for this season, since it was a bit of time that I was basically excited for a season to start. So I have really high expectation for this season. So yeah.
It should be quite an interesting season indeed, and hopefully quite an exciting one as well, especially with how close the lap times were in pre-season testing. We've got some times on the board, as you can see. Currently, Laura Chung in the Haas, currently at the top, but only by 0.08 of a second ahead of George Rope, but that quickly gets beaten by the man who topped 3 of the 4 days of pre-season testing. Jesus Perrin goes 57 thousandths quicker than Chung to go to the top with a 1 minute 29.421 at this stage. Martins goes into 6th in the Renault. Meanwhile, as some more times come about, Chatfield currently in 18th. De Rosa goes 16th, ahead of Willows, in fact, but it quickly becomes 17th because Suto goes up to 14th in the Aston Martin there. So a pretty good first lap there for Jose Federic Suto. I don't know if there was any traffic for De Rosa at least. Willows there wasn't, but so far we talked about, we didn't know really where the McLarens were, and so far during practice so far, they're down in 18th and 19th. So yeah, it doesn't look like McLaren maybe have the pace around here at Road America so far.
Yeah, it looks like that this type of trucks is where McLaren suffer a little bit. And in general, it's the beginning of the season. And yeah, in some trucks, of course, it's expected to see a car suffering, while in the other, it's maybe the car, we're talking now about McLaren, but talking about everyone, every team in general, it can vary quite a lot. And we've seen it also last season, where McLaren was fast in trucks like Portimao. I can remember that they were quite competitive, and in trucks like I don't know, Budapest, they were quite slow in general. So slow trucks maybe is what is their weak still, and fast trucks maybe can actually be helpful for them. Now this is a fast track, so maybe they're hiding their real pace right now. But of course, it's practice, and there's still time to fix these issues. And I think that they will do much better compared to last season. They will be more regularly fighting for important midfield positions than it was in 2022. And hopefully the reliability will be better.
Indeed so, and though we're hoping that the reliability will be better. So far, they haven't had any breakdowns so far from what we saw in pre-season testing, but that could all change when we get to the main part of the season, of course. Obviously, the race tomorrow, we'll get to know the true answers, really, of what everybody is going to do, really. But one team that will be possibly looking at quite a long season ahead of them is Ferrari, of course, because as we've seen so far in pre-season testing, Ferrari look like they've taken a massive step back, and so far, looking at their performances so far so far after the first few laps, 13th and 21st, it's going to be quite a tricky season for the Tifosi, I think.
Yeah, as you say, for when a driver is in danger, it could be a shaky season for them, because let's say it's quite worrying that the car has never shown any pace. That is the most worrying thing, and they were never even on top 10 on dry condition and on regular pace. So there's a lot to worry about for them, and especially for Chatfield, who actually looks like unhappy with his Ferrari, at least by the looks of his comments on YouTube as well. So yeah, it will be quite challenging for them, and let's say I don't expect much from them this season, but maybe a top 15 for one of its drivers could be even a victory. I can have this feeling.
Yeah, indeed, and well, they'll just have to hope that they can just drag as much as they can out of the car they've got at this stage. Notice that Byrne actually set the same time as Chung in the first sector there, thanks to some slipstream from Jesus Perrin, and I did notice that Perrin did originally pass Byrne into the first corner there, but Byrne got him back at turn, well, it's classed as turn 6 around this track, because those little kinks just after that part are actually classed as corners around that track. In fact, I think it's actually turn 5 now that I think of it. But yeah, that's an example. You can pass straight away into turn 1, but they have a chance of possibly trying to overtake you back into turn 5. We've seen that in both World Champ Car and DTM, and that's definitely something, especially if there is a huge battle, if there could be a fight for the lead tomorrow, that could be something to really keep an eye on.
Yeah, I mean, apart there's a lot of overtakes opportunity here in Road America, and as I said at the beginning of the practice, it will be quite exciting to see tomorrow's race. I'm really looking forward to that because this is a perfect track for these cars in terms of slipstream effect and in general overtakes viability. It's quite good compared to Melbourne. I think it's a better season opener than actually it was Melbourne. So and also it will be quite interesting to see Interlagos. But of course, this week we are in Road America, so we'll talk about Road America. And yeah, I expect a lot of overtakes in general.
Yeah, indeed. I guess there'll be somebody maybe with a total counter tomorrow to see how many overtakes it can produce around this circuit as well. James Brickles, the FF1M commentator you may see in the stream chat, mentioning his favourite corners around this track. Turn 1 being the Marine corner, which is where Rahul Patel's just come out of whilst reviewing him there. And the other one being the Canada corner, which I think is after the back straight, if I am not mistaken on that, if my memory serves me correct with the corner names around here. But yeah, either way, some very interesting corners around here. And, well, either way, there's a reason why this track's quite popular. It's nice and flowing, and from memory, this is actually one of the few tracks in the world, I think, that has never had its layout changed from what I remember. It's the same layout from when it was first opened all the way back a long time ago. It's one of those few that's actually kept the traditional layout, and really, you can see why, really. It produces great racing across series all over the world.
Yeah, it's a unique track because also it's quite fascinating as well in terms of look. I mean, I would like to see a race here in real life. I'm not gonna lie, because it looks like quite good for also spots on seeing the races in general, like in IndyCar. Seeing an IndyCar race here will be actually a great pleasure in general, or any series in general. Of course, it's a track that is traditional and yeah, very good in terms of overtaking as well. So yeah, I agree with what James said in the chat. So
indeed, yeah. And obviously it should hopefully produce a good race, as we've said a few times in this stream. Obviously, coming into this race, of course, this is the first race without AlphaTauri, because of course their vacancy was taken by Toyota. Of course, this is their first top class race back since 2009. Of course, so far running in 14th and 16th, but yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to see what Toyota can do this season. We do think that maybe in straight line speed their engine is not quite up there with the regular engines that when it comes to straight line speed, but so far when we saw their downforce package, especially when we were at Mazzano for the first 2 days of pre-season testing, it looked like they had a very good chassis and aerodynamic package underneath them. So who knows really, maybe not in races like this, but in tracks that require a lot of downforce, maybe they could spark a surprise or two.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, I make an example. If Monaco was still on the OC calendar, thank God it's not anymore. But in a track like that, they would be actually quite competitive. I have this feeling because, yeah, of course, there's no straight line, there's no significant straights, and in general, the track is quite adapted for those type of tracks. Yeah, they will have quite a challenging season, I feel. Like in this track, I don't think that they will compete for top 10s, if I'm honest. Maybe Q2, upper midfield in general. So yeah, it will be also a season of learning for them because yeah, it's the first time they're attending a race for the first time since 14 seasons. So it's normal to see a team's taking a little bit of time to getting adapted again to a class when it's also away from a class for nearly 15 seasons. So yeah, let's see what they will do. But yeah, on tracks like fast tracks, they will struggle a little bit, if you're honest. But on tracks with low downforce in general, I think they could be quite competitive. I don't know how much, but they will be competitive.
Indeed, and it should be interesting to see what Toyota can do in their first season. Obviously, Franco Lopez, the reigning champion, joins the team. The three-time world champion is at that team, obviously taking on a new challenge in the top class, of course, hoping to try and transfer the team into being front runners in future seasons, and maybe one day in the future, maybe win his fourth world championship with that team. Who knows, really? But it should be quite interesting to see what Toyota can do this season. Of course, I don't think any of us are expecting Lopez to possibly retain his title this season. I think he's probably going to need quite a bit of luck to do that. But I think if he can get some solid results this season, I think he could still consider that quite a successful first season with Toyota. So we'll have to wait and see on that. Of course, a team that looked like they could be on an improvement this season, of course, that we saw in pre-season testing was, of course, Williams. And so far, as we can see, Julius Anderson, who, of course, makes his return to the top class this season for a second stint with Williams, is currently in 8th position. Sontag down in 16th, but it's safe to say that Williams have definitely turned a corner in their performances from what we saw in pre-season testing.
Yeah, a lot. I'd say that of all the teams that were at the back and has improved, I think Williams is the team that has improved the most. Because let's remember that last season they were even struggling to fight for P20s because they were really far in terms of qualifying pace in some type of tracks. And now seeing them regularly fighting for top 10s, it's actually a relief because we need teams like Williams fighting for important positions. And I think that sadly with Jamie, probably the story was going to be probably compromised in general because Jamie had a very tough season, and for both him and Williams was needed a change. And Julius, now after winning the Champ Car title, is probably more hungry than he was before. Then he was in Formula One. Then he left after he left the Formula One in 2022, going to Champ Car. So and also with Felix's experience as well, it will help a lot the team to get better results. And I hope for them that they will compete for top 10s more regularly than they did, of course, in 2021 and 2022.
Indeed, and obviously Williams will be hoping that they can finally be consistent point scorers this season. Just to give you an example of how strong that first sector is, you would have seen that Andre Videri actually set a purple first sector. Meanwhile, Evan Byrne goes to the top of the timing sheet by 2 tenths on a 129.085. But to give you an idea of how strong that first sector is, Videri set a purple first sector that time by. It just shows you how strong the slipstream is at that part. But as you can see, the rest of the lap, he loses time because as you can see, he's actually gone up to 12, as you can see on the timing tower on the left-hand side. Just shows you how strong that sector can be, especially if you've got good slipstream down that part of the track. That could be something that's quite crucial when we get to qualifying a little bit later on, of course. So obviously one to keep an eye out there then. Meanwhile, Suto goes up to 15th in the Aston Martin. So far he's actually doing quite a decent job in that car. Of course, he and Sazonov, the rookies for this season, of course, and looking to do a good job. We think that Aston potentially are the worst car on the grid this season, but we don't think it's by much because they are keeping in touch with everybody so far. So really, Aston Martin may end up, even if they are the slowest car, maybe just having maybe a similar season to what they had last season.
It looks like that this season it will be quite a tough battle for, let's say, to be the last team on the grid. Maybe Aston Martin is not that slow as I also personally expected, because I expected Aston Martin to be really slow, but it looks like that they're not that slow. So maybe they will compete for even Q2 sometimes. And it depends also on tracks in general, track layout and how the track layout is adapted to their cars. But of course, having 2 rookies, it's not helpful from a point of view of experience. But for sure, these rookies are hungry than actually a racing driver, an experienced racing driver is in general. So it could also work for them to see some surprises.
Yeah, indeed, and obviously we'll have to wait and see really what Aston could do throughout the season. Really, of course, they went backwards last season, and they obviously had a lower trend for this season, but it doesn't seem like maybe it's affected them too much. A little bit like Lamborghini, who so far have been quite surprising, must be saying, in pre-season testing. A lot of people were thinking when they got a lower trend that they were going to maybe fall back a bit as well, like Ferrari. But so far, it doesn't seem like it's affected them too much.
Yeah, I'm quite surprised by Lamborghini, to be fair. It looks like that Michael and Jafari are adapting quite well to their new car. And yeah, both of them are probably looking even forward to bring possible surprises during the season, and maybe on some type of tracks, maybe even shocking top fives. Who knows? On a chaotic race, I mean, but I don't see them dropping that far back. I have the good impression that they can really bring surprises this season. It will be quite an interesting season for both of them in general. Of course, Michael is coming from the harsh probably goodbye that Haas gave to him, deciding to replacing him with Laura. So for sure he will be hungry to prove us wrong about the fact that it was a mistake to suck him and that he had actually the speed. And Jafari, of course, is a rookie, and yeah, the rookie is hungry to get results and to impress everyone in the paddock for a good manner for his future.
Indeed, and we'll have to wait and see how that is how that one will fare, really, with Lamborghini this season. Of course, I predicted them. If anybody saw my prediction on Discord, I'm predicting them to possibly finish 5th in the constructors, but we'll have to wait and see on that, really. But anyway, one other team I want to talk about before we go through the leaderboard so far is, of course, Renault, because we mentioned, of course, when we were at the Red Bull Ring that they've got some very good straight line speed on the car so far, and so far Quarg and Martin's looking pretty good at the moment, it must be said, and it looks like the straight line speed is definitely working very well for Renault. But one thing that might be a bit of a worry for them, as we saw towards the end of testing, is the reliability. They went a couple of days without any issues, but then we got to, I think it was either day 3 or 4 at the Red Bull Ring, and Quarg's car decided to, to have an engine failure in the end, and, that might be a bit of a concern as they head here into Road America, but we'll have to wait and see, of course.
Yeah, Renault needs to fix this problem, because if they fix this problem, I think that they can be even threats for regular wins, most of the times. But until they don't fix these issues with their car, it will be only a dream, because yeah, you have to be reliable, to be consistently fighting for wins and podiums. So it looks like that the reliability has improved compared to last season, but it isn't enough. So they need to work better for this season, and they have to arrive. More prepared this season in general, because it cannot be acceptable that they had too much reliability issues in 2022, and they cannot replicate that this season again.
Yeah, indeed, and both Quarg and Martins will be hoping that their car is a lot more reliable compared to what it was last season, especially when it was in the hands of Jesus Perinen when he was at Renault last season, of course, where he looked at times to get some very good results, but his engine deciding to, at times, really let him down, and that will be one thing that he'll want to try and... that's one thing that Renault will be trying to immune as best as possible, as it looks like Quarg is actually going to try and overtake Rahul Patel up through this straight at the moment. It gives us a comparison to see how quick the Renault engine is compared to the Ferrari engine in the back of the Sauber here, as they make their way down towards the first corner now then, and looks like the Renault might have a little bit of an edge on the Ferrari, but we do think the Ferrari has got some good straight line speed, so that might indicate that the probable cause of why Ferrari have gone backwards is probably either on the chassis or aerodynamic department, because as we can see with Haas, they're performing pretty well with a Ferrari engine in the back of their car, so Yeah, that'll be that. Although Kloss seems to be down in 15, so maybe not getting up to speed yet in the Haas compared to his teammate Chung, who's up in second place at this stage, 2/10 off of Burn. So far then, with just over 6 minutes to go, as Carr improves to go up into third, this is what the leaderboard currently looks like then. It's Burn at the top with Chung in second, Carr in third, Perinen in fourth, Roke is in fifth with Quark sixth, then it is Mocho in seventh, Martin's eighth, Lopez in ninth, with Anderson in 10th, Willows in 11th, De Rosa 12th, Videri in 13th, with Blackwood in 14th, Kloss in 15th, Gomez 16th, Suto is in 17th, with Sontag 18th, Valdinger in 19th, with Chatfield in 20th, Patel in 21st, and Sazonov in 22nd position. And as I was speaking there, Blackwood has just improved to go up into P number 11, as Burns currently getting held up by one of the Saubers. Might as well talk about Sauber, because they are, I think, one of the teams that we haven't really talked about so far. Safe to say that despite the fact that they had an upward trend in their in their trends for this season, it doesn't really have affected them too much, really. They're kind of in a similar position to what they were last season. It does appear like maybe they could fight a lot with McLaren this season.
Yeah, it looks like that Williams has made the bigger steps of the backmarker teams than any other backmarkers team did for this season so far, by the looks of it. Of course, Sauber has improved, yes, but probably it's not enough to regularly compete for the midfield position. So maybe we will see them competing for midfield positions in general more regularly, but I don't think that it will be a consistency for them. Like, they will be probably struggling on some type of tracks as they did, for example, in Mugello. So basically, where the straight line speed wasn't a factor, the main factor. So I think that their season will be quite challenging, and both Raul and Benz have to capitalize the most of it during the races where the opportunity can come for the Swiss team.
Yeah, indeed. As meanwhile, Carr's up on his personal best in Sector 1, but we talked about how strong Sector 1 is usually around this racetrack, and it could be something to keep an eye on when we get into qualifying a little bit later on, as he is still being held up, in fact, by the Williams in front of him at the moment. I'm not sure which Williams that was, because both of them are on track at this stage. We're actually going back to Carr at this point. I think it's actually Felix Sontag, judging from the colour of the helmet. I think it's Sontag that's currently holding up Carr, and yes, it is. It's the pink helmet of Felix Sontag, so that's that, really. So Carr getting held up on his lap. He is up in third place at the moment. I did notice that Kloss, in the meantime, has gone up into 7th place, so he's now got himself in the mingle of where the Haas should really be, looking at where Chung is at this stage. Videri currently 15th at the moment. Teammate Chatfield currently 20th at this stage right now, as meanwhile Roke's trying to overtake one of the Aston Martins with its updated Cognizant logo that's on the side pods now. As now we look at Valdinger now, then he's actually still up on his personal best, but only by 53 thousandths of a second in that middle sector. It looks like Chatfield will probably get a couple of laps in before the session comes to a close, of course, before we get into the qualifying session. Of course, for anybody wondering how many laps this track is going to be, it's going to be 47 laps long. You wouldn't think it, looking at the lap times, but the track is actually quite long indeed. Around just over 6.5 kilometres long, in fact. So it's actually, to be exact, 0.5 kilometres shorter than what Spa-Francorchamps is, which stands at about 7.004 kilometres. So a little bit of an interesting fact there. So we will have, when we get to the race tomorrow, 47 laps of action around here at Road America. Blackwood has gone up into 10th position, meanwhile, in the Lamborghini. So 8th and 10th so far on the two Lambos. He might have actually got a little bit of slipstream from his teammate in front there, as you can see on the camera there. So that's pretty much that, really, as we now look at that's Armar Carr that's now getting held up by Chatfield this time. But I think it's Armar Carr, in fact, because from a distance, in fact, when you look at it from a distance, both Carr and Perinen have very similar helmets. So, in fact, it might actually be Perinen that's getting stuck behind Chatfield at this stage at the moment. So we'll have to... it's actually Perinen. So there goes my proof, really, that from a distance, both of their helmets look a little bit similar, because they both have a dark helmet. But it's obviously the patterns are a little bit different. For both of them, really, as Perinen, as Blackwood's got a little bit of understeer through into the carousel there, and luckily able to keep it away from the grass. And I can tell you from looking at previous series, if you get on that gravel, then it's you're pretty much hoping for the best, really, because the barrier is not too far away, as you can see.
Yeah, also last season in DTM we've seen quite a few crashes there when the driver lost their car. So Jafari was quite good on saving his car from a possible damage that before qualifying isn't is never good because in terms of confidence, then you're actually losing it. So glad is kept going.
Indeed, and he's obviously looking to keep that one going and still getting some slipstream from his teammate Michael Motto as we get into the closing stages of this session with just over a minute to go now left in the session. With just over a minute to go, as I think we're riding on board with the drivers for the remainder of it, judging from the fact we're riding on board with George Roke. This is what the leaderboard looks like. Burn top, Chung in second, Carr in third, with Perrinan in fourth, Roke in fifth, Quag in sixth, with Kloss in seventh, Mocho in eighth, then it is Martins in ninth, followed by Blackwood in 10th, Lopez 11th, Anderson is in 12th, with Willows 13th, De Rosa in 14th, with Videri 15th, Gomez 16th, Suto in 17th, with Valdinger in 18th, then it is Sontag 19th, Chatfield in 20th, with Batel in 21st, and Sazonov in 22nd position. The whole pack currently separated by 1.8 seconds. We're now into the final seconds of this practice session here at Road America. Chatfield crosses the line, no improvement, same with Perrinan, who got a little bit held up, but both of them will get one more lap before the session comes to a close. Here comes Kirishin with De Rosa as he will now come across the line in the McLaren, and no improvement for the Italian, and it looks like the same is going to be for Sontag because he's currently not up on his personal best, down in 19th at the moment. Teammate Anderson currently up in 12th position so far in this session. Now then is Sontag now making his way up the hill and then down the pit straight. He will go on the racetrack now then, and no improvement for him there. He stays where he is for the time being now then, as we've got a few seconds left. As Yuri mentioned, he'll do a little tweak to the gears as the cars seem to be maxing out a little bit early down the straight there, so you might see a little bit of a tweak between practice and qualifying there, which is a good thing for this practice because we get 0 and the checker flag is out. That is the end of the session. Mocho not able to start another lap there, so it was Gomez that was the last car to cross the line on that occasion. Now then, as we ride on board with Joseph Frederick Suto in the Aston Martin now then, as he's just making his way around the left-hander now then, he'll go as Suto now makes his way in towards the final corner, as there's a car in front that's now just peeling off into the pit lane. It's quite a fast pit lane entrance, it must be said, and pretty much the pit lane limiter is just after when they go underneath that bridge there. So anyway, Suto, no improvement for him, as Sazonov just getting some mileage in the other Aston Martin. Willow stays in P13, unlucky for some. Anderson just getting some mileage in the Williams there, as we now look at Chatfield, who's just rounding the final corner and onto the pit straight now then. He will go, as Chris Chatfield now then will come across the line in the Ferrari. Let's see what he's going to be able to do. No improvement, he stays in 20th. Same with Perrinan, no improvement. Chung just getting some mileage in the Haas. De Rosa just coming onto the straight now then to complete his final lap of practice. The Italian crosses the line, no improvement. Sontag and Bern on the lap. I think Bern is actually up on it. Well, no, in fact, I was actually seeing things, but it looks like Sontag and Bern both holding each other up on their final flying laps now then, as they make their way down the pit straight, across the line they'll go. I'm not expecting an improvement from either of them. And nope, Burn staying on a 129.085. Bartosz Kloss crossed the line, no improvement. Gomez is, of course, the last car to cross the line here in the Toyota. He's currently in 16th position at the moment. Teammate Lopez currently up in 11th. Gomez across the line, no improvement, stays in 16th. And that is practice done with Burn top, Chung in second, and Carr in third position. So 3 different teams in the top 3 after practice, Franco.
Yeah, it looks like that we will have quite an exciting qualifying. Of course, practice is another thing compared to qualifying. So I expect different values over the qualifying session. Lower fuel. Maybe Mercedes will be also the favorites. I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think that they will be that fast compared to the rest of the group. So it will be quite an exciting qualifying. I have this feeling.
Indeed. Well, as you can see, because it's obviously now one stream now, practice and qualifying, we're just going to take a little pause for the moment while Shibi sorts everything out for qualifying. But in the meantime, guys, let us know your prediction on who you believe will be eliminated in the first part of qualifying. But in the meantime, I'm going to mute myself to get the tweet prepared for practice. So apologies if I go silent for a little bit. So stick around. Qualifying will be starting in just a little bit.
Yeah, I'm muting myself as well because I'm going to drink. Stay hydrated because at least in my place it's hot. So I return in a bit.
Oh, the tweet is now up on Twitter, and now we just wait for the qualifying session to get underway. But it should be quite interesting. Of course, we talked about as well during the practice session that that sector one looks very, very powerful when it comes to slipstream. And if anybody's in the slipstream during that qualifying session, that could really make the difference when it comes to lap time.
Yeah, I think that whoever will get a slipstream will be thankful to the car in front, because it will actually help his lap quite a lot to be faster than probably his car could be capable of. So yeah, the slipstream will be quite crucial in qualifying. And you know what? I think that prediction in Q1 will be quite tough, because this season the half isn't let's say predictable as it was last season. So yeah, I think that it will be quite tough this season to make predictions. Like last season, it was basically in Q1. If you make a prediction, was like both Williams, both Aston Martins, and Alfa Romeo and McLaren. And this season, it won't be the same. So yeah, that will be quite different, I think.
Indeed, and we've got a dry qualifying in store, as you can see on your screen now, because we're about to get underway for the qualifying session. A dry qualifying for all three sessions, so no rain expected. So I might as well ask you, Franco, for the first time this season, who do you believe will be eliminated in the first part of qualifying?
So I feel like that both Aston Martins, a Ferrari, a Sauber, a Williams, and a Toyota will be knocked out in Q1.
Okay, I'm going to say both Aston Martins will get eliminated. I'm going to say, you know what, I'm going to say one Ferrari rather than both Ferraris. I think one Ferrari will get eliminated. I think one Williams will get eliminated, because it seems they're a little bit... one is far up and the other one is quite far down. I think I'm going to also say a McLaren will get eliminated. I'm going quite bold and say a McLaren will get eliminated. And I'm also going to say, I'm going to go with you and actually go a Toyota. So I think both Aston Martins, a Ferrari, a Toyota, a Williams and a McLaren will get eliminated in the first part of qualifying. But we will wait and see, as the first car out on track is Laura Chung. Of course, this is Haas's home Grand Prix. We forgot to mention this, of course. This is Haas's home Grand Prix, and they'll be looking to do a good job in front of their home fans, especially with how quick the car has looked during testing.
I think that American fans can even dream to see an American car on the podium. That's probably what they're hoping for sure. And of course, with drivers like Bartos and Laura, it could be possible. So let's hope for the best for us in this track.
Indeed, we have got some predictions in the stream chat as well. Xavier said both Aston Martins, both Saubers and both McLarens will get eliminated. And Hyen has said both Astons, a Toyota, both Williamses and a Ferrari. So they are the predictions so far that we've got on the screen at the moment. We didn't mention this as well in practice, but the tyres we are using for the first race of the season is the very unpopular, it must be said, white hard tyres, of course. But hopefully the fact that this track is usually quite exciting will hopefully counteract the fact that we're on a harder compound of tyre here at Road America. So we can only keep our fingers crossed for that one. I think Yuri has also made a little tweak to the gears as well in between the sessions, because they did top out a little bit too quickly in the practice session. So we'll see if the tweaks have made any difference here in this qualifying session. But we'll wait and see. As now Chung making his way onto the pit straight, and Yuri saying it's all good now. So that's that. So Chung is going to start her lap now then, as she'll now make her way down towards the first couple of corners on the racetrack now. Then we go, topping up at about 349 kilometers an hour down that pit straight, very fast indeed down that first corner, as he now make our way down towards turn 2. Quite a fast sequence of corners, it must be said, and not really any heavy braking zones in this first sector. The heavy braking zones usually coming after the first sector on this racetrack. Let's see what Chung's first sector time is going to look like now then, as we can now see it's a 26.633, I think that says, on the first sector, or is it 30? No, it's 26.66. 26.633 there. I got my tongue a little bit twisted there. 26.670 for De Rosa in that first sector. 26.615 for Perrin. So Perrin slightly quicker than Chung in the first sector. And 26.705 for Johannes Martin in his first outing as a Renault driver, of course. So now, around the carousel then, we'll go Laura Chung in the in the Haas car now. Then it shall now go flat out down towards its very quick flats right-hander now. Then we go very quick flat on the throttle you go. Do not think about lifting. A 59.429 in that middle sector is now approached Canada corner now. Then this is a very medium speed corner now. Then quite a bit of curb you have to take on the outside, which Laura has done underneath the bridge now. Then we go through the penultimate turn on the racetrack as Laura Chung now enters into the final corner. We have seen some drivers in the past making mistakes across series around. They're very easy to understeer the car into the gravel at that final corner, but no such issues for Chung. Let's see what the benchmark of time is going to be. Laura Chung across the line she'll go, and it's a 127.880. Here comes Kirishima DeRosa. He goes into second place. Perinen goes quickest by 1/10 of a second. Martins across the line. He slots to third. 3/10 off of Perinen. Quark across the line goes P4. Kloss goes quickest, faster than Slipstream by 6/10 of a second. A 127.094. Valdinger goes into fifth place. Meanwhile, Suto across the line goes into 8th place. P8 for Sontag there. Sazonov across the line. He will go. Goes P9. Lopez goes P9 himself in the Toyota now. Then Anderson across the line goes P10. George Roque across the line. He will go. Goes into P2. 5/10 off of Bartish Kloss there. Gabriel Gomez across the line goes into P10. Armar Carr, what can he do in the Mercedes? Across the line he goes into P2 himself. 4/10 off of Bartish Kloss. Here comes Michael Mocho across the line. Goes P13 on his first lap. P11 for Videri. Not a bad effort in the Aileen Ferrari, it must be said. P16 only for Blackwood on his first lap. P2 for Evan Byrne, who topped the practice. 3/10 off of Bartish Kloss. No slipstream there at all for the Irishman. Kloss obviously had some slipstream on his lap. P15 for Chris Chatfield. P6 for Willows. A good first lap for Willows there in the McLaren. And that's P11 for Rahul Patel. So some very interesting first laps, but it is Kloss at the top thanks to a bit of slipstream on that pit straight there, Franco.
Yeah, I will say that's actually an insane lap from Kloss, and of course, as we mentioned before, the slipstream here makes a huge difference. So, of course, that 1/10 for 2/10 has been gained by that. So, otherwise, probably it would have been possible to see him still leading the field, but yeah, the slipstream makes a huge difference, and yeah, it's quite a great lap from him, and of course by Laura as well, who is the 7th. So the American fans can really dream of a possible great qualifying by both drivers.
Yeah, indeed, and a very impressive lap there from Kloss. Currently in the drop zone, we have Chatfield, Mocho, Anderson, Blackwood, Sazonov, and Suto to the 2 Aston Martins, 4/10 off Blackwood. But yeah, might as well talk about it. Lamborghini, a very poor forced lap for both Mocho and Blackwood. I expected a little bit more from both the Lamborghini drivers, but they've only been able to manage 18th and 20th on that first flying lap. They're going to need to find something on the second flying laps.
Yeah, they need to probably change something on their setup as well. And meanwhile, Lopez I don't know where he's going, probably go to do a little trip around the track. But yeah, I think that everything can still change. It's only the first run, so I think that we can still see Lamborghini going to Q2. And I think the car's potential is bigger than the potential that Lamborghini has shown at the moment.
Yeah, indeed. Hopefully Lopez is not blocking the way for people to come out of the pit lane. We'll have to wait and see, of course. The Toyota mechanics have got a bit of a walk to get to that car, as it looks like DeRosa is getting a little bit held up there by the Toyota there. So that's that, really. Hopefully Lopez is not stuck, because he's parked it quite awkwardly, it must be said, as DeRosa's been able to get going in the McLaren, but we'll have to wait and see, really, if Lopez is actually stuck or not. But anyway, as DeRosa now makes his way out onto the racetrack now then in the McLaren, as he's just coming out of turn 2. Currently in 12th place so far is the McLaren driver, as he now makes his way out of the second turn. He will go, as he'll be looking to try and see if he can go a little bit higher. Of course, his teammate Willow's up in 6th position so far, so a bit of a benchmark for DeRosa to try and beat his teammate.
Yeah, so far I would say that Joe Willow's lap has been quite good, because also it was without any slipstream, so fair enough to Joe. Kiro will have to find that 10th or 2 to be safe enough, and then to beat Willows there's still possibly Q2 if both cars will get through. And I think that he can still improve. Everyone can still improve. So it's still a long session. And I mean, everyone probably from from Waldinger onwards isn't safe at the moment. So I think that we will see a quite fun session.
That is De Rosa now then making his way in towards the final corner now there on the racetrack, as he's now going to start his second flying lap now then in the McLaren, the BMW engine. Second season McLaren have partnered with BMW, of course. It was obviously a tricky season for the working base team, and Lopez is still actually there, in fact, so hopefully he isn't stuck at all in that Toyota, as now De Rosa comes out of the first corner now, then he goes making his way in towards turn 2 on the racetrack now, then we go, as De Rosa now then just comes onto the back straight now, then he will go in the McLaren, as he will now make his way towards the left-hander on the racetrack now, then we go, as the McLaren driver now then is actually 1/10 up on his personal best in Sector 1, but we talked about how strong that Sector 1 is, so we can't really read too much into Sector 1 until we actually get into the next part of the racetrack now then. He has got Jose Frederic Souto in front of him at this stage now then, as De Rosa just comes down the hill towards the left-hander now then on the racetrack, and so far Lopez is still actually there at the moment, because Willows has not gone out onto the racetrack, as you can see, because his as you can see on the mini-map up there, his Willows' dot is not actually on the mini-map, so it looks like he's going to not go out on this occasion, as he's still up on his personal best. 5/10 up in the middle sector now is Kirishima De Rosa in the McLaren, as he now makes his way towards the right-hander now then on the racetrack, flicks the car in, using quite a lot of curb on that outside line now then, before the Italian makes his way towards the final corner now then, and onto the pit straight will go De Rosa in the McLaren, as he uses the slipstream of the Aston Martin in front of Jose Felix Souto. This might actually get him a lot higher thanks to that slipstream. De Rosa across the line goes P2 with that lap thanks to the slipstream. So 2/10 off of this man we're looking at right now, in fact. His former teammate from 2015, Bartosz Klos, who's now making his way towards the final turn on the racetrack now. Then let's see what Klos is able to achieve on this occasion. I don't think he's on an improvement, and obviously he got some slipstream last time out coming down this pit straight, so yeah, no difference there. He stays on a 1:27.094. Johannes Martins up on his personal best. Meanwhile, he's now going to come across the line, excuse me, as he goes 6th place with that lap there. Here comes Bent Waldinger in the Sauber now, then, as he now makes his way onto the pit straight, and Waldinger across the line, no improving, he stays where he is. Carr up on his personal best. Meanwhile, in the Mercedes, his teammate Perinen is right behind him as well, as Carr now then comes across the line and goes P2 with that lap. Perinen across the line goes P4 in the Mercedes. Felix Sontag up on his personal best. Currently, where is he at the moment? He's currently 13th. He goes up into 8th with that lap. Anderson, who is in the drop zone at the moment, currently getting impeded a little bit here, but he goes up into 11th, pushes Lopez in the drop zone. Gomez goes up into 9th, and I do fear that if Lopez is stuck, he's not going to get through into the next part of qualifying. So Roman Quark across the line, no improvement for him. As we now look at George Roque in the George Roque now, and he goes quickest by 4/10 of a second. He breaks into the 1:26, so 1:26.685. Sazonov goes up to 16, pushing for Dairy into the drop zone. Chatfield, no improvement for him at this stage now. As we now look at Jose Frederic Souto, as he now makes his way down the pit straight, no improvement for him there whatsoever. Mocho, 18th now in the Lamborghini. He's still in the drop zone, unlike well, Blackwood's still in the drop zone at the moment. I don't think he's set a time yet. Faderi up into 13, pushes Sazonov back into the drop zone. P2 for Burns, so 1-2 for Red Bull at the moment. Patel down on his personal best, and where is he at the moment? He's currently in 16th, so he's just in the cusp of the top 16 threshold, and no improvement for Patel on that occasion. Blackwood is up on his personal best, meanwhile, in the Lamborghini, as Blackwood now then comes across the line in the Lambo. He comes onto the pit straight, and across the line he goes 19th. He gets in front of Lopez, and he's still in the drop zone, so both Lamborghinis still struggling after these laps here.
Yeah, I'm quite surprised. I thought that they would have found some pace, but unfortunately they're not at the moment. So meanwhile here, I don't know what will happen with Lopez. Sadly,
I know what's happened here. It's because of the turning circle. I think that's what's preventing him from getting back into the garage. It's the turning circle that's preventing him from getting anywhere. Because as you can see, that line there, which is where the tarmac is, it's preventing him from getting back into the garage because he obviously turned the car that way around. So, hopefully, there's see if it does slightly turn or not. Hang on, there's a bit of progress there, so I think he might nearly be there. He might nearly be there. We'll have to wait and see. There was a bit of progress there, so if they could just turn it around a little bit more, if the AI manages to sort itself out on that occasion there, then Lopez could get back into the garage and get himself out there back in time. But we'll have to wait and see on that as he's. Let's see if it works this time. By he turns around. Come on, come on, come on! Yes, yes, yes.
Yes, done it.
Lopez has been freed, so he will be able to get back out onto the track, hopefully, unless the game decides he's going to stay in the garage for the rest of it. Hopefully that's not the case, because meanwhile Willows, who did stay in the garage that time by, has now gone out onto the racetrack there. But thankfully Lopez has now got unstuck, but hopefully he can get back out there to give himself a second chance, a second lap, and hopefully get himself through into the next part of qualifying, because so far his teammate Gomez up in the top 10 at the moment.
Yeah. Also, kudos to the mechanics who actually made a sprint faster than Usain Bolt probably has made in his entire career. So, yeah, I think that in general, Toyota looks to have pace. If the track now is also improving, it's possible to get free in Q2. It will also depend where Lopez will come out on track. So also it would have been really unfair to see Lopez knocked out because of this. So yeah,
as you can see from the little replay there. So and yet his car is back in the garage. I just saw it spawn there. So he will get one more lap before the end of the session, which is a relief to see because we've still got just over 4 minutes left, so still plenty of time for him to do a lap. But Willows is going out on the track, currently P11 at the moment. His teammate up into 5th place thanks to that slipstream, but McLaren looking a lot better than what they did in practice.
Yeah, it looks like McLaren can compete even for Q3. Maybe it's too early to say that, but it looks promising as you're saying.
Yeah, indeed. But so far, it is a Red Bull 1-2, and Red Bull clearly showing some good pace. They were very close, of course, to Mercedes in testing, but this is the first time that we've seen them top a session. Of course, we saw it in practice, and so far they're topping Q1 at this stage. So they're very clear that they want to try and regain the drivers' title that they lost in 2022 to Franco Lopez. Obviously, you were the last Red Bull champion, Franco, and they'll obviously be determined to do that. Especially Evan Byrne, who is determined to try and finally get his first World Championship under his belt.
Yeah, I mean, last season, personally, Byrne would have deserved the title, but he was quite unlucky in some circumstances. I feel like that also in 2021, if Renault didn't sabotage Byrne's car, he would have been there with Gamba and Ka. So yeah, he will deserve one title personally. And maybe now Red Bull has dropped the sandbags. Maybe they were sandbagging until now, and when it comes to serious business as it is now, maybe they're now showing that the car isn't that slow as probably we were thinking about. So yeah, let's hope that Evan can actually have a strong season once again and compete for the title. As he did last season until the nearly end of the season.
Yeah, indeed. It's now Willows just making his way around this flat-out right-hander, and he's 3/10 off his personal best, second off of Roke in that middle sector now then, but we'll have to wait and see if he's done enough to get through into the next part of qualifying, as this will be the final flying laps of Q1, of course, as you see, because we have just under 2 minutes left in this session. Flat-out goes Willows in the McLaren now then, as he now makes his way in towards the final turn, and onto the pit straight now then will go Joseph Willows in the McLaren. Blackwood has stayed in the garage, so unfortunately, in his first ever qualifying session in the top class, Blackwood has been eliminated. So P19 for Blackwood. Could it be any lower, as we saw Willows not improve that time by now? Then here comes Joantis Martins and the Renault. He's down on his personal best in Sector 1 now. Then currently P8 is the 2021 Formula 2 champion, but he's only 52,000 down on his personal best in the middle sector. So maybe he can regain it in this last sector, but he's still way off of Roke's time in that middle sector now, as the Brazilian makes his way out of the right-hander now before approaching the final couple of turns on this racetrack now. Then he will go as now in towards the final corner now. Then we'll go Joantis Martins in the Renault through the final turn and onto the pit straight now. Then we'll go the Renault now then of Joantis Martins down the pit straight and across the line will go the Renault driver, and no improvement, he stays in P8. Bartosz Kloss across the line, he will go now then in the Haas, and he didn't improve. Quark does, he goes up to 12 and no. That's a P12 only for Quark on that occasion, as his teammate Martin's currently P8. Here comes Bence Valdinga now then in the In the Sauber, he crosses the line, no improvement. Kirishima De Rosa up in P5. He should be safely through into the next part of qualifying, but we shall see as De Rosa crosses the line, no improvement. Sontag, he goes up to 8th, another improvement there for the German driver. As so far, both Williamses could be making it through into Q2. Looks like both Mercedeses are helping each other out here. Perrin doesn't improve, but Carr does. He goes up into 4th. Here comes Franco Lopez. He's down on his personal best. Is Lopez going to be eliminated? He is. Lopez is out. The world champion is out in Q1 in the Toyota. So Gomez actually outqualifies him in the first time that they're actually partners. So, yeah, very interesting indeed. Lopez is out. Suto improves, but he's still in the drop zone. So he is out. He stays in 22nd. Andre Vaderi, meanwhile, currently in 14th place in the Ferrari as the checker flag is now out. Vaderi, no improvement for him. Chatfield, he's in the drop zone. He's out. He's on the back row. So Chatfield starts down 21st. No improvement for Anderson. No improvement for Gomez. Chung across the line, and she improves, but only into 5th position. Found some time in the last sector there. Sazonov goes up to 17th, just misses out on a top 16 threshold, and Mocho, I think, already did a lap, did he? In fact, no, I don't think he has, because Byrne is currently on a lap. I don't think I've seen Mocho cross the line yet. I could be wrong, but Byrne is on an improvement here. Can he go quicker than his teammate Roke at the moment? He's currently 3 tenths off. Evan Byrne now then onto the pit straight he goes in the Red Bull now then. Byrne across the line. He will go, and he does improve, but only into 2nd place. Well, stays there. Mocho up in his personal best. He goes up to 10th. He pushes Patel out of qualifying, or will he? Because here comes Patel, and he does not improve. Patel out of qualifying. Mocho ensures that one Lamborghini does get through into Q2, but he kind of left that one late. But yeah, very interesting. But the big talking point, Franco Lopez, the world champion, out in Q1, and Blackwood, a Lamborghini, out in Q1 as well. Chatfield on the back row. So at the end, the top 3, of course, were the 2 Red Bulls of Roke, Byrne, followed by Bartosz Kloss in the end, and your bottom 6 being Patel, Sazonov, Blackwood, Lopez, Chatfield, and Suto. But yeah, real surprising to see Blackwood and Lopez in the drop zone.
Yeah, I'm pretty surprised as well. I mean, Blackwood showed good pace across all the tests and also the practice session as well. So I have no explanation at the moment of what could have been, could have went wrong for him. Yeah, seeing Lopez P20 is actually very odd because it looks like to return to his debut times when he was with Marussia. So yeah, that's quite a shocker for everyone because we were used to see Franco always P1 or P3 in general at the worst all times with these Mercedes. So yeah, it will be quite a tough challenge for Franco, tougher challenge than expected for Franco in Toyota. And yeah.
Indeed. But anyway, we're just going to take a brief pause for the moment whilst Yuri gets prepared for Q2. But in the meantime, guys, you can let us know your predictions on who you believe will be eliminated in the second part of qualifying. But in the meantime, I'm going to mute myself to prepare the tweet for Twitter. So apologies if I go silent for just a little bit.
Yeah, so quite a shocker Q1, guys. I think that seriously no one expected to see Franco knocked out in Q1. Basically, it reminds me a little bit of Vettel 2014 season when he actually started the season getting knocked out not in Q1 but in Q2. If I remember correctly, it was when the V6 era began. So yeah, quite different circumstances, but similar faith for both Vettel and Franco at the moment. And yeah, so also well done to Federi. He managed to get in Q2. I realized that now. So well done to him. And yeah, also in Sazonov is the best rookie ahead of Blackwood, who's with a better car in general. So well done to him as well. And with a comfortable, not a comfortable, but a good gap ahead of his teammate Josef Frederick Suto. And yeah, James said that actually the qualifying session being wet, and when Vettel got now the entire crowd cheered loudly. And yeah, I can get why they cheered loudly, James, because basically it could be the same when actually in our real life Verstappen will probably return to be challenged by everyone else, because when you are the dominator, you're usually seen as the bad guy. So because people don't like one single person dominating, but it could be also in real life or in the OC. Usually the dominator is seen as the guy who makes things boring, and it's understandable, but at the same time you have to realize, of course we are now talking but also in real life in general, the hard work that the people behind a project has made to make this person or this team to dominate a championship. So
Indeed so. And so I'm now back after putting the tweet up. And we're about to get underway for Q2, in fact. And Yuri also mentioned that Lopez can probably blame his pit crew partially for him being eliminated in Q1 there. But both Williams is making it through into Q2, so happy celebrations for there indeed. And they'll be hoping to see if they could possibly try and get one car through into Q3. But we're about to get underway for Q2, and I might as well ask you, Franco, who do you believe will be eliminated in the second part of qualifying?
Well, I believe that Federi, Gomez, Waldinger, A. Williams, a McLaren, and I think Michael Mocho.
Okay, I'm going to say both Williamses. I think both of them will not be able to get through into Q3, but I'll be surprised if they do. I think Federi will get eliminated in the Ferrari. I think one McLaren will get eliminated personally, because even though they showed some good pace in Q1, I think maybe one of them will get eliminated this time by. But I think one of them might get through into Q3. That's what I think. I think Gomez might get eliminated in the Toyota as well. And I'm also going to say, who else am I going to say? Actually, I'll go also the other Sauber as well, because I only realised as well both Saubers made it through into Q2. So I'll say both Saubers will be eliminated, both Williamses, Federi, and of course Gomez will be the ones I think will get eliminated personally. So so in fact I'll say both McLarens actually get. Oh, did I say that? No. What did I say? Never mind. I kind of got a little bit lost there. But anyway, I think I'll actually say both McLarens will get through into Q3 then instead. So anyway, Martins is the first car out on track this time by. So oh, well, is that? Of course he is. So I will say De Rosa then, and then Waldinger. So anyway, let's read through your guys' predictions then in the stream chat. So Ra has said Federi, Gomez, Waldinger, a Williams, a McLaren, and a Renault. He's going quite bold with saying a Renault there. Xavier has said both Williamses, both McLarens, Gomez, and Kloss. He realised he had to put a sixth one there. Brickles has said both. He's actually gone quite. I don't. I think his is a bit of a jokey one, if I'm being honest, because that's way too many cars. I think anyway. I might be. They look at it. That's that. So they are the predictions. Oh, he's making it. Oh, that's interesting. He's going for who's going to get into Q3. So he said both Red Bulls will make it, both Hasses, both Mercedeses, both McLarens, then one Renault, and finally one Williams there. So I kind of misread that one there. I apologise there, Brickle. So that's who he believes will make it through into Q3. So anyway, Martins has just started his lap now then in the Renault. All 16 cars are now out on the racetrack now then, as Martins just comes out of the first corner and making his way down towards turn 2. On the racetrack now then he goes as he flicks the car in using quite a lot of curb on the outside, as now he will soon approach the end of the first sector, heading down towards it's classed as turn 5, but I think I'm just going to call it turn 3 because I wouldn't class these kinks as corners here. But anyway, there's a 26.531 in the first sector, a 26.378 for Chong, a 26.484 for Perinen. So Chong is actually up on Perinen in that first sector there. So the Haas up on the Mercedes in sector 1. A 26.582 for Kloss there. A 26.553 for De Rosa. And a 26.806 for Willow. So Willow slightly down in sector 1 there. As now Martins comes around the carousel now then on the racetrack, as he'll now make his way towards the flat out right-hander where the end of sector 2 is on this racetrack. So flat through the right-hander he goes. And he does a 59.090 in that middle sector. 58.681 for Chung. I don't know if Chung is actually using Martins' slipstream in front, but a 58.947 for Perinen. So Perinen hasn't got an answer to Chung so far in that middle sector. As now Martins comes around the final couple of corners he'll go on the racetrack now. And as he flicks the car in for the final turn, using a lot of curb on the inside. Down the pit straight he goes, up the hill he goes, and now here comes Johannes Martins. Across the line he goes. What's the benchmark of time going to be? And it's a 1:27.418, but Chung beats that by 5/10 of a second. Perinen now goes into second place. Here comes Bartosz Klos, Chung's teammate, comes onto the pit straight. What can Klos do on this lap as the Polish driver crosses the line and goes only fourth with that lap there? De Rosa across the line, P5 for the McLaren. Joseph Willows, his teammate, comes across the line in the McLaren and he goes into P6. Bence Valdinga goes sixth himself, splits the two McLarens at the moment. Anderson goes ninth. Byrne getting held up there and only managing eighth on his first lap there. So Byrne getting held up there by the Williams on his first lap. Carr across the line only goes fourth there, 5/10 off of Chung. Michael Mocho in the Lamborghini crosses the line, goes into P7. Here comes Felix Sontag across the line. He will go and he goes P7. Gabriel Gomez, P5 for him. A good effort for him on the first lap for the Brazilian there. Roman Quarg across the line. He will go in the Renault now. Then he crosses the line, goes P9 on that first lap. And Federi goes P8. Not a bad effort there for the Italian. And here comes George Roku, top Q1, only P5 on that first lap. So at the moment, Laura Chung at the top of the timing sheet at the moment. But yeah, some very interesting laps on that first lap. Byrne getting held up. I do expect a little bit more from him on that second flying lap.
Yeah, I think, of course, Evan for sure will probably improve if all goes well. Of course, I don't want to jinx him because, yeah, you know, last season Evan got once eliminated because of traffic during Q2, so nothing is certain, but it's expected to see him improving if he doesn't have any traffic. And yeah, I will say actually also a little bit of disappointment so far is Roman Quarg as well. He's only 11th, and also in Q1 he was far compared to his teammate in general, and also right now because his teammate is third and he's in the drop zone at the moment. So yeah, he needs to improve definitely.
Yeah, indeed, and well, he needs to find some time indeed, and hopefully, hoping that he doesn't get any traffic on that occasion, Evan Byrne, as he needs to try and get his Red Bull through into the next part of qualifying. So far then in the drop zone, we have Quarg, Mocho, Valdinga, Willows, Byrne and Anson. You mentioned as well that Quarg also having quite a disappointing session as well so far and didn't look that quick in Q1 either. So clearly Quarg on the back foot here at Road America. Looks like Martins has got the measure of him around here at the moment.
Yeah, it looks like that. Martins is getting adapted better here at the moment, and Pug still have to find that pace that also he had during tests in general. So it's probably a thing of a track in general. And yeah, I think that he can definitely improve, but he needs to do it as soon as possible because yeah, there's only probably 2 rounds left, and you know, getting a better time quicker than possible is better than getting a quicker time that at the last minute to have also the goosebumps of not making it in Q3.
Meanwhile, Laura Chung, once again, in fact, is actually going to go out first this time, but like she did in Q1 a little bit earlier on. She's currently at the top of the timing screens at the moment, and so far it looks like she's adapting pretty well to her new team at Haas. And clearly, she really, if this car is actually very quick and can compete with Mercedes and Red Bull this season, I think really she wants to try and aim for her first World Championship if she can.
Yeah, I think that this could be the first championship where we can see Laura competing at the front since 2019 at Ferrari. I mean, she was competing for top positions, but very, very occasionally with Lamborghini 2 seasons ago. And I think this is the good season where Laura can prove herself once again in top class, and also especially with a teammate like Bartosz Klos, who is quite the superstar and the surprise of and actually was the superstar and the surprise of 2022. So it's a huge boost for her to prove herself and to be better than his teammates. So I think that we will see quite a lot from her this season.
Indeed, sir. There's still 2 cars in the garage. Bernard's just gone out. It's just for Derry now left that needs to get out onto the racetrack. I think he's just about to now, looking at the mini-map. So luckily, Chung will not have any traffic when she starts her second flying lap with just over 6.5 minutes to go in this session now. Then as she now makes her way down towards the first corner on the racetrack now. Then she flings the car in through the first turn now then, and using quite a lot of curb on that outside as well. Now down towards the medium speed turn 2 before she will now approach the end of the first sector very, very soon now then on this racetrack. Underneath the bridge she will go. The Sargento cheese, I think it is. Sargento cheese, I think it is the sponsor underneath the on that bridge there. But anyway, she's actually purple in the first sector. But of course, we can't really judge too much in sector 1 because we know how powerful sector 1 is in terms of slipstream, and also because there's not really that many heavy brake. There's not really a heavy braking zone in sector 1, so we can't really read too much into the first sector. So we'll have to really see what sector 2 and 3 has in store around this racetrack. Chung now then flicking the car in for that left-hander, and now around the carousel she will go. This long swooping right-hander now then she will go. At medium speed you take this, and then very quick speeds it must be said to the beginning of it, that is. And now Chung now towards sector 2. She's still purple in the middle sector. She's still got a lot more lap time to fight. 800s up on her personal best, so that suggests to me that maybe it wasn't slipstream that was making her go quick compared to Martin. I know she was close behind, but she wasn't very close behind Martin to the point where they were holding each other up. So we'll see if Chung is able to find a little bit more time here as she now makes her way into the final corner and onto the pit straight now. Then we'll go Laura Chung in the Haas now. Then can she better her time? Of course, she's not got that much margin to improve with, but Laura Chung across the line, she will go. Can she improve? Yes, she can by 10th of a second, a 1:26.729 for Laura Chung. She improves in the Haas stage. She's now nearly 5/10 quicker than Jesus Perinen at the moment. Johannes Martins now then in the Renault. He crosses the line currently third, stays in third for the time being. Julius Anderson up on his personal best. Meanwhile, in the Williams, currently his teammate is in the top 10 at the moment, Felix Sontag, but let's see what Anderson could do as he comes down the straight. Behind him is Kloss. Might get some slipstream from the Williams in front. We'll have to see, but Anderson across the line goes into 12th place, not into top 10, but Kloss goes up to third with that laps and improvement there. Willows goes only 13th. He does improve, but he's still in the drop zone in the McLaren. Here comes Gabriel Gomez in the Toyota. Currently in the top 10 at the moment is the Brazilian now. Then he now comes across the line. No improvement, stays in P7 for the time being. De Rosa giving some slipstream to Sontag. No improvement. Sontag goes up to third. They go to the flag. He's Quark. Quark's crashed out. That's Quark's session done with. He's crashed out at the final corner as Sontag went up to third. Valdinger goes up to P11 there, but that's Quark's session done with. Perinen improves, but stays in second place. Somebody else also improved as well, but Quark's session is done with, and he's made a mistake at the final corner.
Unbelievable. This qualifying session has been a nightmare for Roman Quark, and this is actually the summary of his session. This crash is what Roman doesn't need it, because now it's going to be a complicated race for him tomorrow, and I don't think that he won't even start 11th. He will start probably 13th and 14th. So it will be far back from the top 10. So there will be a lot of work to do from him, and that's a shame.
Indeed, the spare car ban will be implemented on Quark, which Fury can do. Verne makes a mistake in the final corner, and it goes for Spain and Byrne. That's not going to help because he's currently in the drop zone at the moment, is Byrne, and, well, he may run out of time, so could we see Byrne get eliminated in Q2 here?
I cannot believe that. I might have actually jinxed Devon somehow, saying that without any trouble he would have improved of the traffic, but he did the mistake now by himself, so I'm sorry for him, but damn, that's quite rough for him now, but because
Martin's got suspension failure. Both Renaults are out of it. Even if Martins does go through into Q3, he will not take part. Martins has got a suspension failure. What is going on? Both Renaults are out.
It's madness. It's madness. Unbelievable. Once again, the Renault reliability is striking once again, and it's unbelievable. For once, Jonatas was basically beating his teammate comfortably in qualifying. Now he had he's forced to stop the car on track and will not make Q3, and that will be the mark of the race, that tomorrow is going to be a tough day for Renault. And yeah, what a shame. And also Byrne is probably going to be knocked out in Q2 if he doesn't return on the pit box in time. That's an unbelievable session. And also Felix Sontag in P3, I would add that's actually an insane effort by him. And we're really happy to see Williams once again fighting for important positions.
Indeed, and whether Anderson can get out on time and try and make it both Williams is through. I think Sontag is pretty safe to go through into Q3 thanks to that slipstream he got from the car in front there to get him up into third place. I think Sontag is pretty safe looking about how much time there is left, but whether Anderson could get out on time and get out there before the 1:26 mark, we'll have to see, and that could be a question for Byrne as well, who's still on the racetrack. He's actually just come out the final corner now then, so he's got a bit of a rush on his hands. I think he's going to be out here, if I'm being totally honest, but we will wait and see as he now makes his way back into the pit lane, but clearly pushing a little bit too hard in that Red Bull.
Yeah, probably he had the pressure to be in Q3 and he pushed way too hard. It was also the last corner, so such a shame he did a mistake. He did a mistake there because, of course, without the mistake, he would have been in Q3. But of course, if my mom had 3 legs, he would have. If my mom had 3 wheels, he would have been basically a car. So, yeah, it's just a shame that Byrne will be out in Q2, and it will be quite a tough day for him as well, and it will be a quite tough beginning for him as well.
Willows has given himself one more chance to try and get through into the next part of qualifying, but in terms of Valdinger, Quarg, Anderson, Mocho and Byrne, that's it. So Byrne is officially now out in Q2. Of course, Martins won't take part. He's made it through, but Verderi has got to pray that he's done enough to get the Ferrari through into Q3 because Willows has gone out there on track, and whether he's done enough to actually do a time, we'll have to wait and see. But Verderi, I think, has just got to wait a little bit longer because I think Willows might have actually done enough to do one more lap before the end of the session, but we shall see, of course.
Yeah, Willows can still knock out Ferrari, but however it goes for Ferrari, it will be an insane effort because, yeah, we've seen how Ferrari struggled so far this season, and getting a Q3 in that car on a track like this is probably a massive effort. So, of course, the most important part of the weekend will be tomorrow when the race happens. But in the meanwhile, that was a great effort by Ferrari, however it goes.
Yeah, indeed. Chung's just coming around the final corner. She'll have one more flying lap. There's just over 10 seconds left. Is Willow's going to do enough to cross the line in the McLaren? I think he might do, but we shall see. Chung crosses the line with 6 seconds left on the clock. Here comes Willows across the line. He will go, and he will do indeed. So Willows has given himself one more flying lap just in time, and the checkered flag is out. So it's only Chung and Willows that are on flying laps here at Road America. As Chung now then making her way through into turn 2. She's through anyway. So Sontag through into Q3 in the Williams. A good effort for him indeed. And, well, Gomez, of course, Toyota getting through into Q3 for the first time since 2009, of course. So a good effort for Toyota to get one car through into Q3. Chung down by 3 tenths on the personal best sector, in the first sector. Willow's 7 thousandths up in his personal best in sector 1, but he's not really got much margin to gain in the next 2 sectors. We'll have to wait and see what his next 2 sectors are going to look like and whether he's going to do enough to possibly push Verderi out of qualifying or whether the Italian has done enough to get the ailing Ferrari through into Q3. We'll have to wait and see, but there will only be, of course, 9 cars competing in Q3, of course, as a result of Martins having that suspension failure, which has taken him out of qualifying for the rest of this session. So he'll be starting P10 for tomorrow's Grand Prix, Will Juventus Martin. So the Renault's out of position in this qualifying session with Quarg down in 12th position. Could be 13th if Willows actually makes it through into Q3, but we'll have to wait and see as now Chung making her way around the final couple of corners. She will go on the racetrack now then as the Haas driver making her way through there. Willows is actually down on his personal best in the middle sector, so Verderi might actually do enough to get through to the next part of qualifying, but unless Willows finds a miracle in the last sector. Chung, no improvement for her. What about Willows? Can he find anything in the last sector across the line? No, he can't. He says he's in 14th, so Verderi has just done enough to get through into the next part of qualifying in the Ferrari, and that is Q2 done with as a result of that. A very intense session was said. So Chung, Perinen and Sontag, surprisingly, are your top 3, and your bottom 6, of course, are Valdinger, Quarg, Anderson, Willows, Mocho and Byrne, all being eliminated there. Of course, Martins will also not take part in Q3 due to the fact that he had a suspension failure. But yeah, a very interesting Q2, but we're just going to take a brief pause for the moment whilst we get Q3 prepared. But in the meantime, you can let us know your prediction on who you believe will take pole position for tomorrow's United States Grand Prix here at Road America. But in the meantime, I'm going to mute myself to prepare the tweet for Twitter, so apologies if I go silent for just a little bit.
Yeah, it was quite an intense Q2, I guess. I think everyone in the chat can agree with this. Renault, of course, decided to bring us a classic of their reliability. So, yeah, the Renault meme will be actually striking in again. I mean, when I said in the practice that they need to improve their reliability, probably they didn't listen to me. So, yeah, um, quite laughable, let's say, and also quite a shame because also Martins looks quite decent today. So it could have been even a top 5 for Martins, who knows? But yeah, well done to Felix, Federi, Perry as well, and Gabriel to making it to Q3 on cars that I don't think that their cars are that strong to making it to Q3 that regularly. I mean, the McLaren is probably more likely to make it to Q3, but cars like Williams, Toyota, and Ferrari, above all Ferrari, as we have seen, are not cars that are going to make it regularly to Q3. But yeah, well,
Yeah, indeed.
awesome.
I've just returned now from putting the tweet up on Twitter. But yeah, not the start to the season Evan Byrne would have wanted, really. He was hoping to challenge for the championship, but it started in the worst way possible. A mistake in qualifying, and he's got it all to do from 16th tomorrow.
Yeah, it will be also quite challenging for him to avoid the possible chaos that could be seen in the midfield. So it won't be easy for him to start from the back of the field. And yeah, I mean, the win isn't possible without all the without the most of the possibilities, but you never know. So realistically, for Byrne tomorrow, it will be good to finish like 5th or 6th with the car he have. So let's hope that he can actually recover to those places for tomorrow. Also, depending on how the weather will be. So we will see.
Yeah, indeed, and we'll have to wait and see on that one. But we've got a very exciting Q3 in store, that is for sure. And who knows really where this could go. So far, Red Bull have topped Q1, Haas have topped Q2. Could Mercedes maybe top Q3 and maybe get pole position? We'll have to wait and see. But I think it is going to be extremely close, it must be said, especially with the slipstream around here being quite strong as we get set for the final part of qualifying here with only 9 cars, of course, because Martins, of course, is not taking part in this session due to him having that suspension failure right towards the end of Q2. So it's only 9 cars competing in this as we get underway for the final part of qualifying. And I might as well ask you, Franco, who do you believe will take pole position for tomorrow's United States Grand Prix?
Okay, we had the Red Bull and Haas leading the session, and now I say that the most important session will be led by Mercedes, and let's say Jesus Perignon.
Going with Jesus Perrin. Excuse me. I'm going to say... I think I'm going to say a Mercedes, but I'm going to say Armar Carr for pole position. I think the other Mercedes will get the pole instead. But we will wait and see, of course, and it will be interesting to see what Gomez, Anderson, Sontag, and Vaderi, of course, can do in the Ferrari, Toyota, and Williams, respectively, as Gomez is getting ready to go out onto the racetrack. His first Q3 session back in the top class, and Toyota's first Q3 session back in the top class as well since their last appearance in 2009. And it looks like... I think that's De Rosa that's coming out, because I think De Rosa made it through into Q3 as well in the McLaren. So he did a pretty good job as well. Yeah, it is De Rosa. So one McLaren getting through into Q3. Didn't mention that, but a good effort for De Rosa indeed. But we'll read people's predictions before talking about everything else. So let's have a look then. So Ra has said Laura Chung will get to pole position. James Brickles also says Laura Chung for pole. Tilsley has said Laura Chung for pole. Dennis has said George Roke will get pole. And Nathan Ormond has said that Laura Chung will get pole. So a lot of people suggesting that Laura Chung could get Haas's first ever pole position in the top class. But we'll have to wait and see, really, how that happens. It'd be amazing if Haas did it in front of their home fans. That would be something as well if they got their first ever pole at their home race. So it'd be something. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see on that one. But we mentioned with De Rosa there, of course, getting through into Q3 as well. Didn't really touch upon it, but a good effort from the McLaren driver.
Yeah, I mean, of course, with the car you have, it's more likely than actually Williams, Sauber, or even more a Ferrari would actually be able to get it to Q3. But yeah, in general, well done to him to have capitalized the chance, and let's hope that he will actually prove himself quite strong here in Q3. And also, you have the slipstream of Gomez's car, so his sector 1 might be really good. And yeah, let's see what will happen.
Yeah, as Gomez now starts his first lap of Q3 now then, as the De Rosa obviously getting some slipstream from Gomez in front as mentioned, so we'll have to see if he can benefactor from that as they make their way through into the first corner now. Then you can just about see De Rosa in the mirrors there of Gabriel Gomez. Through into turn 2 now then, we will go. I wonder if De Rosa might actually be close enough to maybe go for a move on Gomez here. We'll have to wait and see as they now make their way down towards turn number 3 and towards the end of the first sector now then we will go. And the Toyota does a 26.790 in the first, 26.608 for De Rosa there, 26.995 for Dairy in the first sector there. So he's down on 595, sorry, so he's actually up on both Gomez and De Rosa in that first sector there, so a pretty good effort from the Ferrari driver. But of course, we can't read too much into sector 1 because that's obviously where a lot of straight line speed and slipstreaming is, and there's not really any heavy braking zones at that part of the track. So it's obviously sector 2 and 3 that we need to look at the sector times ready. As Gomez now then approaching the flat out right hander, a 59.607, a 59.098 for De Rosa on that occasion. In fact, he's actually going for a move, as you can see in the mirrors there. Is De Rosa going to go for it? And the answer to that is no. So I think De Rosa's lap might be a little bit compromised as a result. Gomez saying no to De Rosa passing him there, and Gomez staying firm on the racing line, so it shouldn't cost the Brazilian too much time whatsoever now then. As now coming onto the pit straight now then, we'll go Gabriel Gomez in the Toyota now then, as De Rosa's actually going to pass him to the line. In fact, so it might be De Rosa that sets the benchmark of time, which he does, a 1:27.547, and Gomez 6/10 off as a result. Videri goes into second place, 1/10 off of the McLaren driver. Perinen, purple in the first sector, but actually not up in the second sector, I don't think that says. So we shall see. As Perinen now, they're making his way down the pit straight, and let's see if he's able to recover it in sector 3. Perinen across the line he goes, and he goes in at the top, but only by 0.02 of a second, but quickly gets beaten by Carr by 0.8 of a second. It makes me wonder if Perinen maybe made a mistake or not, but a 1:26.675 for Armar Carr. Here comes George Roke in the Red Bull. He crosses the line, goes into second, splits the two Mercedes drivers. Here comes Laura Chung across the line. She will go now then, only good enough for 6th on that occasion. Sontag across the line goes into P7. Here comes Bartosz Klos now then, the last car to cross the line now then in the Haas, as now the Polish driver will make his way into the final corner and onto the pit straight now then. Will go the Haas driver as he now makes his way onto the pit straight up the hill. We go now then, and Bartosz Klos will come across the line in the Haas. Where's he going to go? He goes second with that time, 2/10 off of Armar Carr, and they're the first laps done with Armar Carr currently at the top by 2/10 of a second. But yeah, quite an off lap there for Perrin, 8/10 off his own teammate.
Yeah, from what I've seen, maybe Isus has made a mistake during the second last corner, because I saw him going a little bit wide. But yeah, so far poor lap by him, and I would say that impressive stuff by Kiro and Federi, actually 5th and 6th at the moment. And yeah, of course these are only the first runs, but in any way that's actually an impressive effort by them in general. So good job, and tomorrow of course it what matters more, but in the meanwhile they will get their satisfaction after this Q3 for sure.
Indeed. So far then, with just over 9 minutes to go, it's Carr top, Klos in second, Roke in third, with Perrin in fourth, De Rosa in fifth, Videri in sixth. A good effort in him on the first lap. Chung only 7th at that time, but I expect a little bit more from her in this session. Sontag in 8th, and Gomez currently 9th. Of course, Martins will round out the top 10, but of course he's not taking part thanks to his suspension failure at the end of Q2, so he'll be starting in 10th place for tomorrow's United States Grand Prix. So work to do for both Renault drivers tomorrow, and even Evan Byrne in the Red Bull starting down in 16th thanks to getting held up in clearing traffic on his first lap and also making a mistake on his second flying lap, which cost him any time of doing a third flying lap as a result of that. But Sontag reversing into the garage now. They're currently P8, and so far quite a strong session for Williams overall, really. Anderson, unfortunate not to make it through into the next part of qualifying, but he'll be pretty satisfied with where he's starting tomorrow. P13, and so far a pretty solid session for the Williams pair.
Yeah, also an interesting question made by Felix was actually, where was his last Q3 before today? That's actually a good question, because probably it's quite a long time back. So yeah, that's actually a strong sign of how Williams has improved. That's of course a clear sign. Julius will start P13, but that's much better. That's much better than they were last season. And a Q3 would have happened only with critic conditions, as it was last season in Silverstone, for example. And yeah, we are really happy to see Williams getting back to the important positions once again.
Yeah, indeed. And Yuri saying if he had to guess, it'd probably be Baku 2021 if he was to hazard a guess, when the last time he made a top 10 appearance. So, and that's that, really. And so it has been a bit of a while since we saw Felix in the top 10, of course, and he'll be hoping to try and see if he can maybe qualify as high as possible. Currently 8th so far in this session, but could there be more to come? Maybe he could get a healthy bit of slipstream like we saw in Q2, where he was able to get the Williams into the top 3 in the end. So we'll have to wait and see on that, really. Still 3 cars in the pit lane at the moment. Klaus Roke made that 2 now. It was Videri who was also in the pit lane, but he's now just come out onto the racetrack now. Then there's De Rosa preparing to start his second flying lap very, very soon in this session now. Then as De Rosa will now make his way towards the right-hander now, before going underneath the bridge now then. And he'll be soon prepared to start that. Kloss and Roke still in the garages at the moment. I think now Roke has gone out. Kloss has now just come out from the garage. Hopefully De Rosa doesn't get held up by the Haas driver. Is now De Rosa comes up the hill now then, as he's going to be starting his lap soon. I think Kloss is a little bit far away, or will he? We'll have to wait and see as De Rosa now starts his next flying lap. There is Kloss, in fact. And, well, is De Rosa going to get held up here a little bit? I'm not sure. And looks like there's a bit of a gap in front. I don't know if he actually lifted there before the pit lane exit or not. We'll have to wait and see what his Sector 1 time looks like. But he will get maybe a little bit of slipstream from the Haas in front, who's currently in second place at the moment, is the Polish driver. So we'll have to wait and see. But here we go then, in towards the end of the first sector. Let's see what De Rosa's first sector looks like. And he's actually 13 thousandths off. So, in fact, he didn't actually lose any time from that at all. So he's actually still up on his personal best, but whether he can keep that up in the next 2 sectors, we'll have to wait and see, of course, as now the McLaren driver goes flat through the right-hander now. He'll go on the racetrack, heading down the hill towards the left-hander now, then slowing it down before going around the long right-hander of the carousel now. Then underneath the bridge again, quite a few bridges around here, a few curved bridges around here on this racetrack. De Rosa around the carousel he goes, using a tad bit of curb on the outside before going flat out through this right-hander now then, and he's now actually down on his personal best by 10th in that middle sector now then. Unless he can get some slipstream from Klaas, he might not be able to improve, but we'll have to wait and see. As now through the final turn goes Kirishima De Rosa in the McLaren now, then the BMW powered McLaren, and now through the second to last corner in towards the final corner now then we'll go Kirishima De Rosa in the McLaren, heading up the hill now. Then he goes, he'll now make his way across the line in the McLaren now. Then De Rosa across the line, he will go, and can he improve? No, he can't. He stays in 5th place for the time being. Perina, meanwhile, up on his personal best, and not up on car though, but can he get himself onto the front row? Let's see, the Spanish driver now then, the Spaniard onto towards the pit straight, and Perina across the line he will go, and he goes into 3rd place, not able to get in front of Klaas. Here comes Gomez, who's up on his personal best, and he goes into 8th, gets in front of Sontag. Chung, not up surprisingly, and stays in 7th place after that lap. That's a bit of a surprise. Chung a little bit off in this section. No improvement for Sontag, stays in 9th, but Carr is up on his personal best, and he goes a little bit quicker, 56 seconds quicker on a 126.619. Here comes Andre Videri, who's currently in 6th place at the moment in the Ferrari. He's doing quite a good job in the ailing Ferrari. Is Andre Videri. He now makes his way on the pit straight. Up the hill he goes now, then making his way across the line. I don't think he's going to improve, but we shall see. Videri across the line, no improvement. He stays where he is. Roke is also So not on an improvement at the moment. He's currently in 4th place. He was up on his personal best in sector 1, but lost it all in the middle sector. We'll see if he's able to get it back though in this last sector. Roke through the final turn and onto the pit straight now. Then will go the Red Bull driver as he makes his way up the hill now. Then Roke across the line now. Then he goes in the Red Bull. He now crosses the line and he does not improve. Stays where he is. Kloss is not on an improvement. Meanwhile, he did have De Rosa behind him as well. Let's not forget, but it looks like Kloss is not on an improvement to try and see if he can close the gap to Armar Carr in front as he now heads out the final corner onto the pitch. He goes up the hill, goes the Haas driver now. Then as De Rosa makes his way back into the pits, as you saw there in the background. But Bartosz Kloss, no improvement. He stays in 2nd place at the moment, still splitting the 2 Mercedes drivers there. The second lap's done with. Now, will anybody get out there and do one more flying lap before the end of the session? We will have to wait and see, of course. But at the moment, Carr still at the top of the time machines. But surprisingly, Chong way off the pace in Q3.
Yeah, that's a real surprise because look at how Kloss is actually not far from the pole position made by Carr. Of course, Carr has made two impressive laps, and I don't think that Carr's lap time is going to be beaten. So it's on the others to fight for that 2nd position if they can make it in time on track. And yeah, quite disappointing for Air because also Andrea Federi is ahead of Air, and Andrea Federi, we know that he have a weaker car than Air car, so that's not a good qualifying by her. But if she can make it on track once more, there's still time to avoid this possible disappointment from Air.
Shall see, of course. There's still just over 2 minutes left. They need to get out, of course, before the 1:26 mark. Otherwise, they won't have any chance of starting another lap, of course, in this session. Just under 2 minutes left now, so only a few seconds left before they miss that cut-off at the moment. Not seeing any movement at the moment, so we shall wait and see. 50, 49, 48 now we are on. And so far, we're still looking at Gomez. No movement in the garage, as I can see on the mini-map at the moment, unless I can now see some. But will they be able to get out on time? That is, of course, Jesus Perinin, in fact, that is going out. So maybe he's giving himself one more chance to try and beat his teammate for pole position. 31, 30. De Rosa's coming out in the garage. 29, 28, 27. Might just do enough to get out on track. What about De Rosa? I'm not 100% sure about De Rosa, though. We'll have to wait and see. But I think Perinin will do just enough to get one more lap in and try and see if he can beat Carr to pole. So we'll have to wait and see with De Rosa. I don't think he's done enough to make it across the line, but I think Perinin might. We'll just have to wait and see as we ride on board with the Spaniard now then. But if De Rosa hasn't made it, then it will be a Mercedes that will be on pole position for the first race of the season. It will just be a question of which Mercedes will get pole. Will it be Armar Carr or Jesus Perinin to take what would be his... I'm trying to think the last time he actually got pole. It was actually Monza in 2021, if my memory serves me correct, because I don't think he got a pole last season in the Renault. So... yeah, I think Monza 2021 was the last time Perinin got a pole position, so it has been nearly 2 seasons since we saw the Spaniard on pole, but we'll have to wait and see if he's able to produce the goods, as Armar Carr, of course, looking to try and see if he can get the first pole of the season, like he did last season, of course, at the Australian Grand Prix, but I guess he'll be hoping for a better... conversion than what he did last season at the Australian Grand Prix, because obviously he wasn't able to convert pole into the victory last season, of course. But anyway, Perinin, 17 seconds left on the clock, 16, 15. This might actually be tight, in fact, but we'll have to wait and see. 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, and now we have 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. He has just made it, so Perinin will get one more lap in. 0. Checkered flag is out. That is the end of the session. De Rosa didn't make it, so he hasn't been able to get a lap in, but it looks like it is going to be P5 for De Rosa. But Perinin, he has given himself one more chance to try and see if he can beat Carr to pole position here for the United States Grand Prix. Out of turn 2 he goes, using quite a lot of curb on the outside line now. Then as we ride on board with the Spaniard, maybe try to see if he can't beat Carr, maybe try and make it a Mercedes front row lockout. Perinin now, then down the hill he goes, in towards the first sector, and he's up on his personal best, but he's 700ths down on Carr in that first sector. But again, we can't really measure too much with sector 1. We have to look at sector 2 and 3 to see what everybody else is doing. But he is up on his personal best by over a tenth on his personal best in sector 1 now then. So let's see, as now Perinin making his way through the left-hander now, then he goes, using quite a lot of curb on the outside as we go around the long swooping carousel now then. Will go the Spaniard. as he'll now come towards the middle sector now. Then let's see what the middle sector looks like compared to Armar Car as he now makes his way towards that middle sector. He's 1/10 down, but 4/10 up on his personal best. So at the moment, it looks like Car will get pole position, but can Perinen making a Mercedes front row lockout for the first race of the season? Perinen through the right-hander he goes, using quite a lot of curb on the outside as he now makes his way through the penultimate turn now. Then flicks the car in for the left-hander. Now in towards the final corner goes Jesus Perinen now. Then as he now make their way onto the pit straight, up the hill now. Then goes Jesus Perinen in the Mercedes. Can he find anything on Car? Can he get it on the front row? Perinen across the line he goes, and he goes into second place. He found a little bit more time on Car in that last sector, but he's not able to beat Car. So as a result, for the second season in a row, it is Armar Car who takes the first pole of 2023. He takes pole position for tomorrow's United States Grand Prix. So me and Franco are now going to stay silent and allow you to see how Armar Car got the first pole of 2023.
Currently P1 is a great lap. Only sector you're not fastest in at the moment is the last sector by a couple of hundredths. We can't afford to slow down too much.
And that is how Armar Car took the first pole position of 2023. A very good lap indeed for the Brit. But the question is, can he convert it into the victory, unlike what we saw last season with Armar Car? But he'll be determined to try and do that. But anyway, here is the top 10 then for the first race of the season. Armar Car takes the first pole of 2023 with Jesus Perinen just missing out in second place. Bartosz Kloss, a very impressive effort for him in third, with George Roque in fourth, 7/10 off of Car in the end. Kirishima De Rosa, a very impressive fifth in the McLaren, with Andre Videri, a very impressive sixth in the ailing Ferrari. Laura Chung, a disappointing seventh in the end, just couldn't find any pace in Q3, with Gabriel Gomez in eighth, a strong effort for Toyota in their first race back, with Felix Sontag in ninth, and Johannes Martins will complete the top 10, despite not setting a time due to the fact that he had a suspension failure at the end of Q2. But overall, Franco, pretty interesting session, it must be said. Some surprises along the way, but overall, it's a Mercedes front row lockout to kick off the season.
Yeah, let's say Mercedes was quite fast in Q3, so well done to them to be the fastest when it mattered the most. So a front row lockout is quite important for them, and hopefully tomorrow their drivers won't replicate what Armor and Franco, when they were teammates in the past, did. So yeah, it looks quite promising for them in general, and I think that Red Bull has disappointed a little bit, also with Rogue starting only P4. Kloss probably did the maximum, starting P3, and I would say that Federi personally for me is the man of the day. Starting P6 with a Ferrari is quite a huge achievement. Possibly this could be his best qualifying of the season. I have this feeling. So yeah, well done to him. And yeah, last thing is Chang being a little bit disappointing. 7 tenths behind her teammate. And yeah, tomorrow is the race, so of course everything can still change. But yeah, Laura has been quite disappointed today. So we should see an exciting race tomorrow and a different pace from everyone.
Yep, indeed, and hopefully we'll be in for a cracking race tomorrow as well. Well, that has been it then for the first qualifying session of the season. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. A very, very thoroughly entertaining session throughout all of that. Chaos in Q2 as well, to add to that as well. But that has been it then, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Of course, we're not done with live streams just yet, because coming up at 7 p.m. BST, we'll have day 2 of pre-season testing for Formula 2 over at the Autodromo Internazionale Enzo Edina Ferrari in Imola, Italy. Hopefully it won't be as chaotic as what yesterday's test was over at Miami Gardens. So fingers crossed for that one indeed. It'll be the final day for Formula 2 pre-season testing as well, so do look forward to that as well. But until then, guys, that has been it. I hope you have enjoyed it. So thank you all for watching. I'm JW97. He's been Franco Gamba, and we will see you tomorrow at 5 p.m. BST for the 47-lap United States Grand Prix. Till then, take care.
See you.